Today, let's talk about a very specific relationship dynamic that is going to make the difference between us having most of our relationships being in a state of being triggered, being in a state of where there's always conflict, to relationships that are way more peaceful, where people respect you way more, where things are smoother, and where we actually get what we want. And so often we are in a state of, I can do whatever I want. I'm trying my best and I'm still triggering people. I don't know what's wrong. I'm trying to either walk on eggshells, I'm trying to comply, I'm trying my best to really be the best version of myself, and people still tend to have a problem with me. Well, I'm here to tell you I've experienced all of this, and I can tell you that there's one thing I changed that really transformed all of my relationships. And I mean absolutely every single one. And this is, although I'm talking to people who are completely different, who have nothing in common, and still this one thing changed everything. So this is what we're going to talk about. And then hopefully this can be an inspiration for you to make similar changes in your life. Maybe it will be one more inspiration to make a choice that makes sense for you. And I really want to walk you through it. Before we get started, I want to give you one last reminder that the INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp has launched and you can join until tomorrow. So July 27th, that's when we're going to have our first live call. And we start off with physical energy management. It's always the one pillar where it's all about, okay, I'm going to use all the energy that I have. I'm going to maximize it so I can then put it into the things that matter the most to me. It's a really interesting concept, and I love how we INFJs come together and work on this side by side. So everything you need to know in order to join us, you can find in the links in the description. So the key to changing relationship dynamics is all about our extroverted functions. So are we going to use FE and SE in a reactive way, or are we going to use it in a proactive way? So let me give you an example of using it in a reactive way. You meet a person and, they're a human being. They have insecurities, they have great attributes. They're, a full person that we like. Maybe it's somebody that triggers us on some level. It doesn't matter. It's a, complete human being, and every single one of us has things that, we can work with, things that we like, things that we don't like. There's not one person on earth that you can meet and you can say, everything they do is perfectly fine for me. Like, I love every aspect of them. That person is, maybe you. Maybe you at some point in an idealized world, but there's no way a person can live out their life completely they want and assign to you the attributes that they want you to be, and you being totally fine with that. And so when it comes to the reactive way of using those functions, it's the following. Another person or group is setting up an energy. They're setting up a relationship dynamic. They're setting up the world the way they want it to be. They are taking charge of the emotional atmosphere of that group. And that doesn't have to be somebody who has extroverted feeling in their functional stack, but it's somebody who says, this is how I want things to be. That's how I go into the world, and you're in my world. That's what it means to be reactive. And we're really, really good at this. And this is what we probably have learned for the longest time. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't really care so much about moving people around or making them feel things just for the sake of it. It's more like, I stay in my lane, you do your thing, and then we're going to find a compromise. And that's where things go wrong, because at first sight, this is a great approach. You live your life, I live my life. It's like, heaven on earth. A great quote that actually fits this narrative is by Nietzsche, who says, you have your way, I have my way. As of the best way, the correct way, it doesn't exist, right? And you could at first sight think, well, aren't we doing this? I allow people to be themselves and I want them to allow me to be myself. But what we forget to take into consideration, and I definitely forgot it for the longest time, was the following. A person that isn't me does not really know me. It doesn't matter if it's my mother. It doesn't matter if it's my father, my brother, a romantic partner, my best friend. Nobody knows me completely. And on top of that, as an INFJ, I don't even show them so much what I care about and what I don't care about. So that person probably doesn't know that much about you, even if they're really close to you. Particularly if you haven't tapped into making, your extroverted functions proactive. And I can tell you from personal experience, this became really clear to me the moment I changed this. And I was probably in my late 20s when I started this process. So, the people that I'm talking about, they've known me all my life. And I wouldn't even say that those were people who didn't care about me. Like, my family cared about me. And still, people were shocked. My friends were shocked. My parents were shocked. Like, everything changed. So how does this look like in practice? Another person is setting up the tone. This is how I want things to be. And then you come along and you do the bare minimum to not rock the boat. Because that's what it actually means to be reactive. You say, what is the smallest amount of energy I can exude that will cause problems? Because in an ideal world, I would just not exist. They could be all they would want to be. I could observe everything and I could just stay in the background, right? That's an idealized version of being reactive. And for us, this doesn't sound like a bad idea in theory because it would allow us to be in our mind and to daydream and to think about situations and to try to understand them. But in that relationship dynamic, the other person is setting the tone. And when they're setting the tone and you're not playing by the way they want you to play, you're not giving the thing that they want out of you, you're not adding your flavor to their approach of the dynamic, they're going to get triggered. They're going to have a reaction towards you, and then maybe they have some negative reaction towards you and you don't really give a real feedback. And so it's a continuous triggering of both parties where the other person is trying to set up the tone, they're trying to set up their world, and you're not being the person that they would want you to be. And this behavior of other people is completely normal, by the way, because that's how every single person approaches life to some extent. This is how I see the world, and I see the world the way I am, not the way it really is. Also, our perspective of the world is, of course, flavored through the way we are, right? And so what is the alternative to this? Well, it's actually to be proactive in our extroverted functions. And that means that you have to set up the tone. It doesn't mean that you have to become a leader. It doesn't mean that you have to, become this extrovert who's saying, we're all doing it the way I want it to be done. I can tell you, even now, after doing this for 10 years, after really practicing being assertive with my energy, when I'm around my family, when I'm around my friends, I'm still not somebody who's the leader of the group. I don't want to be that. I still don't approach life this way. But the difference is that I'm not doing the bare minimum. I'm doing as much as I possibly can. I'm putting in effort. And it's actually this effort that makes the difference because I'm creating an experience. I'm the one who's setting up my tone. And then we can find a compromise. There's an example I've mentioned in a couple of videos of, imagine there are 5 people and they set up an emotional atmosphere. The INFJ who's joining this group, who's joining it reactively, is looking at this environment and is maybe saying, yeah, that's kind of boring. I don't really want to get engaged. But I also, need to be here because, for example, those are your coworkers. So I'm just going to, stay back and allow them to do their thing. So what we're subconsciously doing is saying, how can I add myself to the situation without adding my energy to it? How can I be the smallest, additional force to that? Because I don't want to rock the boat. Because once I rock the boat, I'm going to be triggering to people. It's going to change everything. And on top of that, it actually requires effort to continuously create an emotional atmosphere. That's actually what we need to do. Putting an effort is the one thing that is in our control when it comes to this. And so I'm not going to go into that group of 6 people and saying, listen, everybody has to do what I want. But I'm also not making myself small. I'm saying, this is the kind of energy that I would add to the mix. Because guess what? It's not 5 people and you're like this invisible force that comes there and just is an addition who doesn't want to rock the boat. It actually turns into a group of 6 people and you're one of them. So your flavor matters. The way you see the world matters. Your perspective matters. And what you also do is you create an experience. You create an atmosphere. And that atmosphere, that experience that you're creating is based on who you are and how you see the world. And although people will have a strong reaction maybe in the beginning, after a while, they actually have the chance to value what you bring to the table. Because yes, at first sight, it might look like it's easier to not rock the boat, but you actually are going to be at the mercy of what other people want you to be. And if you're not the way they want you to be, they're going to have a problem with you because they're the ones who are setting up the energetic atmosphere, for example. And let's say they're doing this at this level. And then you come along and you barely say anything. So they don't have a reason to be nice to you, to be kind to you on a subconscious level, because they're actually creating an emotional atmosphere and you're not. And they want some kind of validation for that. And you're not thankful for it because you're in their presence. And there's always this notion of, well, the way you set up reality, it's not really right. I don't really like it that much. But, I'm not going to do it myself because it requires effort, because it's something that I have to continuously do. And so, of course, people will subconsciously, have a problem with you because they're the ones who are creating all of this. You're not doing anything in that regard. And you're also judging them because there's not this unconditional validation for the atmosphere that they're setting up. But if you, on the other hand, are actually adding to the relationship your emotional atmosphere, people are way more likely to actually listen, to actually take a step back, because they recognize that what you're bringing is really nice. It's an energy that brings them peace. It's an energy that transforms them. It's an energy that is, above the mundane, right? All of that. But they cannot appreciate that if they haven't seen it. And so once you start really saying, no matter what, I bring this energy and I'm going to do my best to bring that energy forward every single time, 2 things will happen. The other person will first have a reaction, and that reaction probably won't be very nice because it's like, oh, this is not what I expected. I don't like this. Who do you think you are? That kind of energy. With time, they will understand, okay, you're not backing off. You're always going to be that version. You're always going to live out your truth. Well, how do I feel about that? And some people won't be able to handle it and will back off. Most people, particularly people who are close to you, like really close to you, really, want to be connected to you, they will start appreciating it. They will understand that they want to be in your vicinity, that what you add is actually something that they want and they can actually back off. They don't have to be the ones who create the emotional atmosphere all by themselves. You are there as well. And through that, you're actually bringing what they want all along. That the burden of this relationship isn't all on them, because that's how it feels like very often to other people on a subconscious level. I'm creating the emotional atmosphere. You're not at all. You're just reactive. And then you're not even reactive the way I want you to be. The more you get into the driver's seat, the more you're the one who's creating the emotional atmosphere, the more people are going to let you be. Because although it's not exactly who they would want you to be, they see that you're bringing an energy that feels nice, that is adding a different perspective to their lives. But they couldn't have known that if you didn't make it a non-negotiable if they wanted to be in your presence. So in order to do that, we have to understand that yes, it will require energy. We can, of course, go through life and say, what is the least amount of energy that I would have to put into those relationships? And most of us have gone through life this way. We've experienced this. And if you want to continue this way, just keep doing this. Like, it's definitely a valid way of going through life. It's possible. It doesn't mean you're going to have a bad life, anything like this. But in my experience, and this is not just an experience that I have seen in my life, but also the hundreds of INFJs that I've worked with, the thousands of INFJs that I've talked to over the last 10 years, this is going to improve your life. The effort that you're going to put in is actually going to cause you to have a much more peaceful life. So yes, you will have to exude more energy, but there will be much less draining energy in your life because people will back off because they want to experience you. See, if you are making yourself small, people around you will want to drag you into who they want you to be. And that's draining energy. That's minimizing your energy. So although the alternative means that you actually have to exude more energy, at the end of the day, you're actually going to have more energy left. And you're even going to be able to create an upward spiral of energy because people more and more are going to recognize, oh, it's in my best interest to allow that INFJ to live out their truth, to speak their truth, to set the tone, etc. And every single time you continuously do those things, the more energy you have. I always encourage you to watch, let's say, the first 2-3 minutes of one of my first videos and to really see the difference in energy. This is what it looks like being somebody who's been reactive and coming out of a really bad situation that really pushed me all the way down and is now starting to be proactive to somebody who's been doing this for 10 years. It's a completely different energy level and it has transformed my life forever. And so that's why I, teach this. That's why I want to inspire you with this because it's definitely possible for you as well. If you don't know, let me remind you, one of the pillars that we work on in the INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp is relationship management. Those are some of the aspects that we work through and really put into action. In bootcamp, we have an entire session dedicated to this, a lot of videos and a lot of lessons on this. So if you want to join our amazing community who's continuously working on these steps and making it happen in their own life, then join this INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp round. You can join until tomorrow, July 27th. Everything you need to know you can find in the link in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.